Welcome to the 2 Wealth Show, a show that shares how you can create real wealth for you and your family. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Bogard, and my co-host is Elizabeth Sickles, aka Super E. I am a real estate note investor, specializing in performing residential real estate debt. I find the deals, acquire them for my own portfolio, as well as educate investors while walking them through the process of owning a real estate note. My co-host Super E, a real estate investor, specializing in short-term rentals and the management of them. She connects investors with short-term tenants and manages everything in between. Our show is sponsored by BrightPath Notes and Elizabeth Maora. You can find out more information by visiting our websites at brightpathnotes.com and elizabethmaora.com. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Pretty good. Welcome to episode number 22 for our listener. And if you didn't notice, Elizabeth, I am in a vehicle recording this podcast today.
And where in the world are you, Mr. Bogard?
I'm actually I guess this is still considered Fisher's. I had to drop my truck off that I got a few weeks ago to the dealership because I had some transmission issues that they're fixing. And it kind of was a priority to get it in sooner than later. So I had to find like an open new vehicle to sit in so I could have some quiet time so I could record this podcast with you today.
Excellent. That's what it's all about, right? Flexibility, making it happen.
Yeah. At least I have the technology to do that. So if you see people in the background or maybe someone might get in this car to check it out while we're recording, don't worry about the interruptions here.
And speaking of cars, we have a really special guest today, and Shawn Holsapple, and his it's really just a story about hustling, and cars are part of his journey.
Okay, let's bring on Shawn right now. Hey, Shawn.
Good morning.
Shawn, welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we started off the conversation, and I know you heard in the background about me sitting in this vehicle at a new car lot, a GMC lot to be exact. And so Elizabeth was saying how this is kind of how you started out with this kind of in the car business. So you want to we kind of led you into this part of the story. Can you kind of take over from there?
Sure. So during some of my journey, a portion of that was flipping cars. I've always been a car guy, and back in, I think, 2008, I had an opportunity to get in to an actual car dealership, a new dealership, and got a lot of good training. I'd been in sales prior to that for about 25 years, and I thought I was a pretty good salesman until I got some really good car training, and a lot of good stuff. And it was a top-notch dealer, so the typical used car salesman, greasy guy, that wasn't their policy at all. It was very top-notch, very, very structured, and got to learn a lot of the process and how to have conversations, words to use, to help the buyer towards the end, which is signing on the dotted line. So I started off about 6 months doing that and seeing what opportunities there was. I was making okay money at the time, but then I seen what the dealership was making. Of course, the light bulbs go off. Like, well, I can do this. So I got my own dealership license, started going to the auctions, picking up cars and selling them same day sometimes. And so in 2009, I side hustled 129 cars on the side while I was working full time and everything. And so, that was a good year for sure.
Wow. Yeah, that had to have been very busy for you.
Yes, thank goodness I have a very, very good and understanding wife. I was selling cars at 10:30 at night sometimes, and it was crazy. We was in the suburbs of a larger city, so people just come, they call, and she helped a lot, and so we sung from the house. I had a location for a while, but I found that I could do better. More of a side hustle versus a real car lot location for some reason. I just really struggled with that side of it as far as getting the deal done versus it seemed like when people when you come to their house or your house to buy it, it's more laid back And so that ended up working better just doing that without the overhead and expenses of having a lot.
So this was your side hustle. So you still had a full-time job, and you were doing this flipping cars on as your side hustle as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Your wife is very understanding.
Yes.
So I think, that's a really great thing for our listeners too, Shawn, is the fact that Michelle has been such an integral part of your businesses, and just, you're married, you live together, and you're in business together. Kind of like as your story has progressed, can you kind of share like how that has progressed as well, and how you guys have made that happen?
Yeah, that's an all-day conversation in itself. But we just celebrated 29 years recently. Twitch.
Congratulations!
Yeah, congratulations.
So it's started off when we got married. I was working as a machinist full time in a factory, doing second shift, third shift, lots of hours doing that, making decent money, and then end up opening a car audio shop out of the blue. We'd just been married, 3-4 months, and ended up going full time into something I had no idea. I knew cars, but I didn't know car audio. I didn't know wiring that well, and I certainly didn't know business. But I always had this extra grind in me that wanted to sell stuff. In high school, I was selling bubble gum to pay for my car and my gas because we was very poor growing up, and so I've always hustled some way. And she was there for that, and that's a transition. And then she's worked on and off over the years, other places, but always end up doing the book work. She likes books, she likes organization, likes filing. So she's the back office. She's the sticky stuff that keeps it all together, for sure. And I'm out front just making a huge mess, and she comes along and cleans it up for us. So it seems to work out.
Nice. That's a good team, good partnership.
That is very good. And so how long did you do the car audio business, Shawn?
12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the car audio, that was always the core, but 2 or 3 years into it, that evolved into home audio, which evolved into custom higher end home electronics, automation, really nice personal cinema stuff. Some really cool automation, lighting controls, high end homes. And so that was neat. Got to see a lot of cool homes, a lot of great people to meet along that journey. And I've been through all that, and part of that was new construction. Our company would go in and pre-wire the homes for all the electronics. So I got to see, I counted up one day, probably over 700 new construction builds I was on site part of over the years. So I got to see the construction side of things, which kind of helped plant the foundation for real estate, in the coming years.
That's awesome. So what year was this?
We started in 92 and sold our business in, I guess, 02. We sold it to the competition, went to work for them for a couple of years, which was tough. And ended up just getting out altogether, and then completely switching gears at that point.
And how did you make the transition from being the owner to an employee?
Well, it wasn't by choice. The short story is we just spent a huge amount on a remodel on a commercial space we had. And within 3 months, the landlord comes to us and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, the building is sold to Lowe's. We're tearing it down. You can move, and I can help you move." I'm like, "Well, what about all this money? I just spent 6 figures on a remodel." And he's like, "Not my problem."
Wow.
It literally wiped us out. And so the only thing was to salvage was that we sold the home side of the business to a company that was also doing the same business, and got about a third of what we owed. And we took the next 10 years paying all that back instead of filing bankruptcy. So I've been to the bottom a couple of times in our careers, and but that's how I ended up there. That wasn't by choice, but went to work for him. It was okay for a while, but it's just they were, their path wasn't the same as mine, and so we ended up just parting ways after a couple of years.
And then, go ahead, Justin.
Sorry, I was going to say the location of all this, because you currently live in Indianapolis, is that correct?
South side, yes. So this was Bedford, Indiana, very small town south of Bloomington. And so a small market, And of course, hindsight, I should have moved to a larger market. That would have been a lot better. Anyway, of course, I wouldn't change anything because all of that got me here, and that's what it's all about. So all the ups and downs and the trials and being at the bottom and scraping by and the long hours has got me here. So that's what it's all about.
So currently, fast forwarding kind of like your business today. So you've got your journey from, being kind of in the side hustle and kind of car business and different aspects of it. And then you eventually got to, I think you said the home audio, like the high custom home audio stuff. Did that kind of get you into real estate from there?
No, not really. I still didn't. I had friends and family that were doing real estate. I got one cousin that, of course, now we're really close. But back then, I used to see him, and I knew that he had rentals. And my thought was, that poor guy. Like, why would you do that? And I just didn't get it at all. I even looked at some rentals at one point, talked to a bank, and it sort of made sense, but I just didn't get my head around it. I was all about sales and inventory and employees and all that and customers. And so no, it took the second reading of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was in 2008, to really kick me in the shin. Like, okay, I got to do something. I've worked 30 years now, and I have basically nothing to show for it. I mean, we weren't poor, but I didn't have any equity or net worth to speak of. And I thought, okay, worst case, I see my parents who worked 50 plus years very hard and don't have hardly anything. So no, that's my path if I don't change. So that's when I changed, went to a seminar, took my wife along, which she wasn't very eager to go. And after the second day there, she's like, okay, I see what you're talking about. And that was the spark to kind of get into the real estate side of things.
And that was like 2009, 2008?
2008. But it's 2010 before I actually bought my first property. So it was 2 years of, hunkering down, making offers, hoping they wouldn't accept it, and just scared to death. And finally one got accepted one day. And like, oh, whoops, now what?
Right. So, I don't know what to do.
But yeah, it got us here. And that was kind of how that started. And then they were still working for their people on and off over the next couple of years. I went full-time late 2011 into real estate, got my broker license, starved for 6 months, did, absolutely horrible. And then finally in 2012 started the wholesale and seeing that opportunity, and that clicked. And then that's kind of how that all got started.
That's kind of the sweet time to get into this, was right around that time, yeah. the 8 to 12
time.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a very good time.
Yeah.
So you started off wholesaling then, right? Or did you start off as, like you said, you had your broker's license. So did you start off as a realtor first?
No, I worked for a company that was a turnkey. They was doing acquisitions, rehab, property management for a small hedge fund. And so I was involved in that. So that really got a lot of experience quickly from looking at, the lower end. We were selling the homes 22,000 turnkey. That means we'd spent 10 or 12,000 on them, rehabbing them. So we was buying them $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 homes back then from the city. And I just came off of working for a company in Indy doing high-end home electronics as a consultant. So I'm used to going into $2 and $3, $4 or $5 million homes, and then I'm in a $2,000 boarded up, very rough Center Township, downtown Indy home with squatters. I'm like, holy cow, what? I can't do this. After 3 days of that, I came home like, I just can't do this, and I finally got through it and got to learn. And so I was the acquisitions guy. So they would send me out to 10 to 20 homes a week doing estimates. And so you start doing that enough, you kind of get a feel of what can be done, how it can be done, what it's going to cost, and then seeing what's available. During that process, I was in office helping make offers, and that's when the broker there said I should get my own license, so I can make offers myself instead of through him to help speed up the process. And so I got my license, and then that office fell apart. Things just didn't work out there. They actually went out of business. And so I was kind of left on the street. Thought I would go in and find REO brokers, and then I'd go work with them, try to get some pocket listings, and try to get ahead of stuff. So that's when I found Chris Price at the Indie Property Source on the west side, Carol Williams, and started working with him a little bit. And that's kind of when the wholesale started. I was told originally, which was incorrectly, that I had to have my license to wholesale, and also that I wasn't allowed to use assignments, which we all know is the way to do it. So I got used to doing it very early, using OPM, other people's money. And so I'd actually buy and close on the asset and then sell it, either through a double close or to sell it later. And so that's my version of wholesale. I don't hardly ever do contracts for assignment. It's always buy it, close on it, then decide what to do with it in the meantime, which is a little bit upside down on how a true traditional wholesaler would operate.
Right. Yeah, I've heard the same things about having to have a license to do these real estate transactions that we do, the wholesaling and stuff. And I know that not to be true today, but at first you're just like, oh yeah, I probably should have that, right? Because you logically you're like, I probably should have a license, because that's kind of what you see as realtors have licenses to be able to do that. So.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I love it, Shawn, that like you're hustling, like no matter what, you're hustling. It was cars. You were a machinist at first, which was one of my careers back in the day. I sold the brains to those machineries, and and this full force of real estate, and just building your wealth so that now you and your family can enjoy life a little bit and sit back and enjoy all of those late nights and super early mornings.
Right, and it's now I've learned the lifestyle design versus just run and put out fires all day long. I try to plan plan the next several years and what to do and what not to worry about and what to worry about. And so that's really changed as I've gotten older. And at the end of the day, the passive income is where it's at. Of course, that's why we start all this, is to get to the passive point. And between flipping some cars along the way and the wholesale, that was the vehicle I took to get to the point where I could keep some of those wholesale opportunities, turn them into longer term rentals, partner up with some local banks, and get those cash flowing. And so, the first couple of years was I was just selling everything. I wasn't keeping anything. So I was still doing active work. Income was active. I was still trading hours for dollars. And it was good, but I still had to work. I still had to get up every day and do it. And then when I finally realized, I went to a local meetup, and the speaker was like, "Why are you selling all your deals when some of these are smoking deals that you should be sitting on and turning into cash flow?" And that kind of hit a nerve. And so during that time, I'd also heard the term freedom number. And so at the time we was living in a small house in Greenwood, and the expenses were pretty low. So our freedom number at the time was 4,000. I thought if I could get 4,000 passively, that sounds pretty decent. And for us at the time, $200 per month net after 100% financing from a local bank was kind of what we were shooting for. So some quick math, at $200 a pop into 4,000 is 20 homes. I thought, well, at the time, I think I might have had 2 or 3 rentals, and they were struggling. And so really started focusing on the freedom number. And within 18 months, we had our 20 homes. We had the freedom number. And then I was able to kind of sit back and relax for a second. And now, like, well, that was somewhat easy. Let's see how far we could take this. And so it became a game at that point up until about 2017 when the market kind of shifted. But yeah, we had a good run, and we got some passive income sets. That's where we're at now, just kind of sitting back and waiting for the next run.
Right on. So what do you think is going to happen, kind of projecting into the future now, based on what you see and what you've done in your history and your education kind of in real estate investing? What do you see the market doing as far as like real estate investing, goes in the next couple of years?
Yeah, my crystal ball is broke. Right now, I have no idea with the way things are. If it wasn't for the last 2 years, historically, I think it would be overdue for a correction.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the 17-year cycle or 7-year cycle, whichever one you want to look at, I think we're there. But with the way things are, I have no idea. I still think we're up. Q1, Q2 next year looks like there has to be some kind of correction. I don't know if it's going to be here, the Midwest or not, but I think there's opportunities there. So we're just kind of sitting and waiting. I think by Q2, if it hasn't really changed, then we're just going to have to realize that these current prices and this current market is just how it's going to be. So we're going to have to make that work and get back into it.
You have I'm sure you still have the desire, and you still do wholesaling or flipping houses today, right?
To a point. Flips have always been a struggle for me for some reason. It's just,
okay.
We did probably 30 over the last 5 or 6 years, and very few of those are very fun. And then it's just gotten worse.
Okay.
The current one that we're finishing up on was a full rebuild, pretty much ground up. It was a higher end project and had a lot of hiccups over and we're just about to be in now. We're supposed to close next month, fingers crossed, and get out from under that. But I don't really want to do any more flips like that for a while. For us, the wholesale or the hotel was called. It's where you're wholesaling it, but you're also retailing it. So you go in a house that's full of junk, you can clean it out, do a prehab almost, and get it up to the next level for a landlord to buy that and take it on from there. So you can go in, we have success with that, but trying to do a full rehab and selling at retail, it was always a struggle for us for some reason.
Yeah, I've had those similar challenges with flipping, and that's why I don't do it, because I'm not the expert at it. I like the passive stuff too. So
right.
Your business is called Hoosier Solutions?
Correct.
I'm going to throw up your website here on the screen for those of you that are watching on the videocast of this version of the podcast. And so it's Hoosier-Solutions.com is the name of the website. And that's how somebody can reach out to you if they're looking for Indianapolis or surrounding area properties, or where's your boundaries?
That site is more geared towards the seller.
Okay.
So it's a place to sign up, but there is contact information there if someone wants to reach me otherwise. And if they want to be on the buyer's list, they can send me an email through that, and we can put them on the buyer's list. Right now, I'm not doing a whole lot of wholesale, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of picking and choosing at the moment, kind of waiting, like I said earlier, to see what happens, and to building up the war chest to get ready.
Do you have a sweet spot of the wholesale properties in like the Indianapolis area, like a dollar wise, and where you try to go after? Like, is it the $50,000 homes or $150,000 homes, or?
Yeah, when we was doing the bulk of it, it was always, the purchase price was under 60 for sure. A lot of it was under 20 sometimes, which, that's been a few years.
Right.
And, but yeah, that was kind of that's $700 to $1,000 rental. The inner city, the metro Indy area was a sweet spot for sure. I found my personal stuff to be better outside of the city, out in the counties, the rural areas, and that works really well for us for rentals. But for wholesale, for sure, the Indy metro and under 60. Probably now it's gonna be under 100.
Yeah.
The purchase price.
So your main thing is you're getting these properties through your different ways that you advertise to sellers and get these under contract, and you buy them with other people's money, and then you're able to clean them out a little bit, and like you said, wholesale, and then you're able to sell them to somebody that pretty much wants to flip it or wants to make it a rental.
Sure.
Is that?
Yes.
Sweet. Elizabeth, let's get some fun questions in here. What do you got for Shawn?
All right, Shawn. So what is the biggest piece of advice you can give to somebody, no matter what stage of life they're in?
Wow. For me, it's all about money, and that sounds bad when you say that, but it's understanding it, not necessarily constantly getting it, but just understanding how money works. And there's so many people that don't have a clue, unfortunately, and how how things operate. And so just learning some basic money skills and accounting skills is huge, I think. And then also some sales skills, because I think life is a big sales fest. You're constantly selling yourself to whoever you're talking to try to either get some business or networking or something. So you have to have the communication skills there as well. And I started off very shy, had a really bad stutter. In high school was horrible. So trying to break out of that for me was a challenge. And now sometimes I can't shut up. So
that's awesome. That's some great advice. And looking back for myself, that's exactly what I struggled with too, was those things. And you're right. Those core things, having communication skills, sales skills, and then obviously running numbers, like Elizabeth always says, right? Know your numbers and know the financials about the business. And those are the things that you need to be successful. And obviously you're very successful. And a lot of people look up to you here in our Indy area with our local RIA clubs and stuff. So we appreciate all the stuff that you do for our local clubs as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about, Shawn, what is either a book or maybe because I know you're a big podcast listener too as well, that you would recommend for our viewers and listeners?
Well, I have to say Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because that's the cliche almost. Everyone mentions that. But I think for me, I picked it up in late, probably 98, 99, and right in the middle of two locations of business, a child on the way, and life happened. I read it, like, well, yeah, that's neat. I should do something, but then I got busy, and then after 10 years, 2008, as I mentioned earlier, I picked it up again, and it really hit me hard that I've got to do something. So that was a starting point. Then of course there's all kinds of other good ones for business. The E-Myth, Michael Gerber, is great. The 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, that'll melt your brain. Then of course, 10X, Grant Cardone. If you do that book, get on audio, and because he's the narrator himself, and he's all jacked up, and he'll get you pumped up. And 10X everything else.
So a fun note about the 4-Hour Work Week is I listened to that in 2011. I just actually, one of my friends said, hey, you should re-listen to it or rebuy it. So yesterday I went to buy it on Amazon. The price has increased 80% in the last 32 days.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So it just kind of goes to the fact of people wanting to be more entrepreneur and just looking at other ways, to make money.
Right. And just a side note on that particular topic, that one really drove home the idea of a VA, a virtual assistant. Mm-hmm. I'd been using one on and off a little bit, but then when reading that was right at the height of our wholesale business. So I actually had a couple full-time VAs that really helped out a lot. And also I did the private chef, believe it or not. I thought that was for some high level executive, and you put an ad on Craigslist, you can probably find someone. I mean, we had a lady come in once a week, and she charged us $75. She was there all day. She cooked all her meals for the week and also cleaned the house, did laundry, did dishes, everything for $75. And she was
wow.
So that was neat.
Wow.
I'm about to try that. That's awesome. Shawn Holsapple, everybody listening to our podcast and watching on the Videocast. It's Shawn Holsapple. He's in the Indianapolis area. Hoosier-solutions.com is his website. That's how you can reach out to him if you're looking for properties, or if you need to sell one of your properties. I'm sure Shawn will take a look at it and give you an offer for it. So, Shawn, we really appreciate you spending the morning / afternoon with us here recording this podcast, and we're glad we got you on.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'm Justin Bogart with BrightPath Notes. This is episode 22 of the Two Wealth Show podcast.
And I'm Elizabeth with Elizabeth Maora.
All right, guys. Till next time.
Bye.
The Two Wealth Show is produced by Justin Bogart and Super E, sponsored by BrightPath Notes and Elizabeth Maora. Thanks for listening and watching for our show.